Welcome to the Clarity Podcast with David Prosper, where we inspire you to live a life by design and not by default. Today, I'm honored to have Melissa as our guest. Melissa is a certified financial planner, a certified divorce financial analyst, and a founder of Mindful Financial Partners. Her philosophy is simple, yet transformational. Financial clarity is the cornerstone of personal and professional growth. Melissa specializes in demystifying finances, helping individuals overcome emotional and mental barriers, and creating actionable plans that empower confidence and purpose in every decision. So, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm honored to be a guest today.
So I am just curious, what made you want to get into financial planning? And your approach is very different from what we talked from what other financial advisors do with being mindful. So talk to us about that.
I always wanted to be a financial planner. I loved numbers and math and finance. And I spent most of my career at big wirehouses, including UBS and Oppenheimer. And I learned a lot. I got a lot of designations, took a lot of tests, got a lot of alphabet soup, behind my name. But there was something that was missing. And I'm a big proponent of holistic financial planning, but the firms and the industry, my colleagues, they were all focused on the balance sheet. And I was focused on the individual. And I wanted to hear their stories. And I wanted to peel back those layers of the onion, because we can all look at a portfolio or, at an asset allocation and kind of say, oh, I would change this, I would do that. But it's just numbers until we really know why we have this money, where it came from. What do we want? What legacy do we want to leave, behind with it? And I think that's really important. And I really wanted to be able to have those conversations and show up authentically. And so I decided to go off on my own and create Mindful Financial Partners. And now I get to show up authentically. And my approach is, like you said, a little different. I'm not as worried about how much money you have or, what your balance sheet is, but really what it means to you. And part of my process is really looking at our financial past and learning from it and investing in our future, but really being present for today. And I think that is a balancing act that's hard. A lot of people don't want to unpack kind of our past financial trauma. Some people only want to focus on, this retirement, right? This age or this date in the future. And they're not living in the here and the now. And they don't have clarity as far as what it all means and why is it important. And I think that's important that I take that time, really get to know my clients on a deeper level and really oftentimes educate them. And, together we learn about what is most important to them. And then we make a plan.
You said something that's powerful. I want to rewind back. You said holistic, and holistic lovingly is such a buzzword. People say holistic. Break that down. What does that actually mean? And how does that relate to how you interact with clients?
Sure. So normally you meet with a financial advisor and they say, okay, show me your retirement statement, show me your bank statements. Okay. And then they'll say, okay, I'll do this differently. And I'm going to charge you this. And, this is what I have to offer. Not knowing, I take it a step further and we say, all right, before we even get into the dollars and the cents and the money, I go over your money mindset. What does money mean to you? What was it like growing up in your household? Did you know how much money your parents made? Did you get an allowance? That past, is money to you a status symbol, or is it freedom, or what does it mean to you, and what do you want this to do? And why are we saving all this money? Are we just saving it so we can just stop working and then do what? We all hear about the stories, right? We work, and then people retire and then something bad tragically happens to them and they never get to have that retirement. But holistically, I go through every single account and I want to know what the titling of the asset is, who's the beneficiary. So often we have our parents still as a beneficiary now that we're married. We have one kid as our beneficiary, not the other kid, because we forget. Sometimes we have our maiden name on things. Sometimes we have old addresses on things. Sometimes we have an ex-spouse on a beneficiary form. So all of those things, while it's not a income generating or revenue making. It's part of that holistic process. You need to know the titling is so important. So we go through that. I go over your tax return with you. I want to meet your accountant. You want your professionals to work together. I want to see your will. And someone's like, well, what is that? That's just, wasting time. Why do you care? You're not an attorney. But it's important to make sure that what is in their will and that what is in their tax return is aligned with what we're doing financially. And you want your professionals in your life to all work together to help you. And so that's important, that synergy there between the professionals in your life to make sure that we're saving money, we're reducing taxes, and God forbid something were to happen, the titling of the assets and the beneficiaries are aligned with what is in your will, with all of the other assets that you have. So I take it that extra step. We go over insurance, we go over the titling, we go over education planning, we do all of those things. And that's really the holistic. It's not just investments, it's not just saving money, it's your overall financial health.
That's powerful. So as you were talking, there was 3 S's that came to mind for me. Was stories. What are your stories surrounding money? Because you went back into, did you get an allowance? And then the next S I hear is what are your systems in place? And then future wise, I hear strategies. So what are your stories? What are your current systems? And what is the current strategies in order to get you to where you want to get? How does that resonate?
Yeah, you nailed it. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use those 3 S's.
Let's go.
And you know what? A lot of people just jump to the strategies. They just jump ahead, right? They're like, we're just going to go, I'm going to talk about your future, and not knowing who the players are and where you came from and what that all means. And what do we want to do with this money? And how would you feel if 2008 happened again? If COVID happened again, how you have to really peel back. And it's so much more than, okay, let's take a risk tolerance test, right? We all take in those quizzes and you're like, okay, I'm moderate, right? How many of us are like, all right, we're moderate. Yeah, but that's not enough to really have to give good advice. And the more information I know about my clients, the better advice I can give, the better our relationship is, and it just evolves over time.
I could definitely sense that the need for cultivating value-based relationships. In that, I know you're a certified divorce analyst as well. So how do you navigate people through one of the hardest times, I would assume, when it comes to divorce? Because now it's money, emotion, and then the separation of just life. How do you navigate people through that journey?
Yeah, so that's a tricky one, but I really love the divorce work. I'm not pro-divorce. I'm happily married, but my why is my mom, and I was a child of divorce, and she made decisions with her heart and not her head. And it has affected her future moving forward. And so I like to become a financial ally for people going through that traumatic experience of divorce and being able, because they don't have clarity at that point, right? They're so emotionally drained at the thought of, okay, this person's not going to be in my life. We're going to have to sell this house. Our schedule is going to look different. Our finances are going to look different. Thanksgiving is going to look different. They cannot look past today, let alone look in the future. How are these decisions going to affect me 5, 10, 20 years from now? And so I provide that clarity to say, hey, these are our options. And here are some new options that are kind of creative, that are think outside the box options that could be unique to your family. And this is the long-term consequences. These are the pros, these are the cons, these are the things that we need to take into consideration before you sign anything. Because divorce is emotionally, it's an emotional divorce, but it's also a financial divorce. And we have to take a pool of assets and income and divide it. as fairly and equitably as possible. And oftentimes I have clients that are just so emotionally drained that they don't care about the finances, right? They're just so spent and they're like, I just want to walk away. I want to be done. And I try to just empower them and really educate them through that process of saying, what about this? Did you think about this? Okay, if we keep the house and sell it later, these are the tax consequences of this, then this is going to affect X, Y, and Z. And so it's just kind of being their financial ally through that super, super stressful time in their life to help give them the best outcome for them and their family.
I like the word you use, ally versus analyst. And granted, you're an analyst of dissecting and understanding their financial situation. Now, I'm curious, as a personal question, like as you're steering people in these transition periods, how do you stay anchored when people are in that emotionally charged up situation like a divorce and they want to get you into that emotional vortex? And how do you stay anchored and steering them in that way without getting too involved emotionally? Because I think that's a very challenging thing.
Yeah, it is hard. And part of my training is I've gone through mediation training and I've gone through collaborative training to be able to navigate that. But I'm a really big proponent, specifically for divorce, to build your divorce team. And so what I mean by that is a lot of people often right away when they think about divorce, they think, I'm going to hire an attorney, right? Like that's my first phone call. And I love attorneys, they're great. However, they're very expensive and they shouldn't be the first phone call. The first phone call should be a divorce coach. And that coach will emotionally support you through this process. And divorce, like often other changes in our life, it's not a straight line. It's not like you just wake up one day and like, okay, these are the 10 steps to get divorced, right? There's, am I making the right decision? I'm going to go back. I don't know. I love him. I don't love him. Like there's a lot of that roller coaster. And a divorce coach is the person that can emotionally help you through that and recognize like, this is normal. Let's process this together. You don't want your attorney to be your divorce therapist or your coach because their hourly rate is a lot higher than a divorce coach. So oftentimes people say like, wait, you want to build a team? All I need is a lawyer and then I'm in. But that's not really the case. The second call I think should be the financial, which is a certified divorce financial analyst. And that person can come help you prepare financially. And before you even see the attorney or hire a mediator, you need to know your numbers, know dates, gather information. You need to know, where the assets are, what the titling of these assets are, what your balance sheet looks like, how much income is coming in, how much expenses are going out. And so that is something that I work on, kind of creating that financial affidavit for the clients. And then, so you're emotionally supported, you're financially supported, and then when you're ready, whether it's mediation, collaborative divorce, or an attorney, we go. But when you're getting to that point and you make that phone call, you're prepared, right? You have two people on your side. You're emotionally supported, you're financially supported, you kind of have like a clear picture of like what we have, what are my priorities, and then we go to the legal aspect of it.
So going back to like your holistic approach, you mentioned being inspired from your mother going through divorce and her making decisions from the heart, and how you were able to help your clients make mindful decisions, not just practical decisions, like that holistic approach. And then even thinking about a divorce team, that's one of my favorite books is Blue Ocean Strategy. So it's like thinking outside of the box. Where did that originate from? Like you thinking, okay, all right, I got to help them develop a divorce team, and then I have to help them create or understand or uncover their relationship with money before we even start taking steps with money. That's uncommon, and I haven't heard that before. So where did that originate from, thinking outside the box and innovating a process like that?
I think it's just really looking at the human being, right? And what we need, and it's not just factual. A lot of people see that the letters at the end of my name and they're like, oh, she's a math whiz, right? She's all about the numbers. But there's an emotional side to money And there's definitely an emotional side to divorce. So all of those things, I think that's what differentiates me from my colleagues, is that there's an empathy piece there. There's facts and there's numbers and there's equations and spreadsheets and I'll give you all that. But there's an emotional piece that we can't overlook. And that's, I think, the beauty of the advice and the relationship and really feeling supported. Because if not, then it's just like, okay, we're all just gonna boom, boom, boom. I'm level 8 out of 10 and this is your return and that's it. And having a financial ally or getting financially organized, it's so much more to that because of that emotional side of that and the empathy that I bring to the table. And it's not for everyone, right? Some people are just like, nope, I want numbers. I want one meeting. That's it. I don't want to have a conversation. I don't want to talk about my past. I don't care if you know my kids' names and where they're going to college. But those are not the people who are drawn to me. But yeah, it definitely is a unique way of thinking of it, but I wouldn't change it because I really know my clients inside and out. And I'm oftentimes the first phone call when they have a decision to make or they have like a life event coming up. And that is what I'm most proud of.
First phone call when people need advice. And let's continue with that. How would you advise like couples and families to initiate having the conversation around finances and being more mindful of it and being more practical? How would you advise them to navigate that conversation?
I think the earlier you start, the better, because money is emotional. And I think that there's not a lot of tools out there, right, for people to talk about it. But the earlier you start and those kind of micro habits, I use the term financial date night, and I want people to get together with their significant other and have a financial date night. And it doesn't have to be this terrible, awful, I'm going to the dentist, I have to pay my taxes ordeal. We can make it fun. And it's that small mindset shift of, hey, we're going to open our favorite bottle of wine. We're going to get takeout from our favorite restaurant. Let's look at our balance sheet, right? Where can we be making improvements? Let's look at our spending. Where can we, tighten up? What are our big goals? So are we saving for that house? Are we on track for that house? Are we on track for that retirement? And are there any upcoming expenses that might throw us off the rails? And those conversations, when it becomes part of your normal, it's easier when there's an unexpected layoff, right? Or a disability or a death in the family, because there's plans in place and there's conversations that were had. So it's not such a shock to the system because the conversations have been fluid. So I really try to encourage, both spouses to come if I'm meeting with a couple and make sure everyone's on the same page about their finances. Even if they don't agree on everything, to have that open communication is really key.
That's powerful. Open communication and planning ahead and not taking the shock as severely, because life happens and lifes. So what would be a takeaway outside of open communication, having the conversation earlier? What would be like some key takeaways for people to start practicing financial clarity?
I think to be proactive rather than reactive, and say, let's have like a quarterly date night. We can make it fun and we can say, we're gathering all of our documents for our accountant, right? It's tax time. Or, we're planning our annual family vacation. Let's just take a check. Let's take an inventory of what we have. Do we know where everything is? Is there a missing 1K that we kind of forgot about because we changed jobs? And, is there a IRA that we lost track of along the way? Or are we contributing enough to our children's 529 accounts? Let's just take an inventory. Let's make sure all the beneficiaries are up to date. And let's think, let's dream big, right? What is our plan for this? What happens if this? And it's kind of like that what if game. And I think that's where a financial planner is like a great add-on, because sometimes it's awkward, right? You have one person that's the saver, one person that's the spender, you have one person that's the investor, the other person is just blindly signing the tax return, right? Having no idea where the money's coming, where the money's going. So creating that clarity and opening up those lines of communication, it's not only better for your financial future, but it's also better for your relationship, because you then have this understanding and trust Maybe that there's some there's pressure there on one person and they really hate their job, but they think they could never leave their job because they're the breadwinner, right? Or what if they really have this desire to open a new business, but they don't know because they carry the health benefits? So it's part of that. We kind of get stuck where we are and just keep going on that hamster wheel. But when you take a break and just take that pause and have that conversation to be like, what would this look like? Let's talk about this. But we often don't make time for it, right? Life is busy. We're always on to the next thing. But how powerful would it be to 4 times a year sit down with your spouse and say, hey, where are we at? Where do we want to go? Are we on the right track?
Where are we? Where we want to go, and are we on the right track? I am now curious, just vision wise, as a result of people interacting with mindful financial partners, who would you want them to become? If there was this blank canvas of what you can create, how would you want the world to interact when it comes to money, finances? What's Melissa's big vision?
I think to bring intentionality to the world, because a lot of times we're on autopilot, and I was guilty of it. My past version of Melissa, I was a working mom. I was just type A, going. I wasn't being intentional about my spending, about my investing, and most importantly, my time. And I talk about this a lot because time is really our most valuable asset. We can make more money. We can't make more time. So really looking at who we spend our time with and what we want this money to afford us to do, and this wealth and this life, really to make that come to light and talk about it. Because some people are kind of on this never ending, okay, we're going to get to this point and it's retirement, right? And this is either the date or this is the dollar amount I need in my account. But what does that mean, right? And are we healthy to be able to use this wealth, and who do we want to spend our time with? And what is this wealth going to afford us in retirement? So really being intentional about it and bringing that balance of our past, our future, and really being present today, because I think that's important.
So as you're talking, what's coming to mind for me is money is a tool and a vehicle, and you help people define what kind of vehicle that they're going to be taking and the destination that they're going to be going. So I hear you a financial guide series, just turn left, and it's just time, going back to that. We can make more money, but we can't make more time. And where are we investing? And if we're intentional with our money, the likelihood of us being intentional with our relationships elevates, and then overall our life becomes better. Is that resonating? Because that's what I'm taking away.
Yeah. And you have the sense of purpose, right? Because it's a choice. You take that pause and you find that purpose. And sometimes when I'm covering this, people are realizing, wow, I'm living way below my means. Why? And we go through these series of questions to say, if you had enough money in the bank, how would you spend your time? And, is there any of that we can do today? Can we, regardless of how much is in your bank, can we do a little bit more of that today? Who would you want to spend more time with? Are there any regrets or, kind of those bucket list items to be no, I need to do this. And why are we putting this off until we're 65?
Because that's what we were programmed to do. It's just
right? It's autopilot. You work until, this age or this, date, or you have this much money, and then you stop working. And I feel my philosophy is let's test that theory, right? Does that have to be true for all of us? And do you want to completely stop working? Or what if we changed our career to be completely fulfilled, financially stable, but completely fulfilled, and then work part-time later on? Or travel now while you're healthy and while you're, able to really see the world. So it's kind of breaking through those social norms that we've been programmed in, to our lives, and really creating the best life for you and your family. And every conversation is different because every family is different and everything is different. Everything means different things to different people. So really having that one-on-one attention with a financial planner who really cares about you, your family, and your future.
That's value right there. What means something to the person and how does their life become better versus the one size fit all. Now, a slight pivot. What books are you currently reading or book?
I just read a book called Present Over Perfect.
Say more.
Yeah, it's really just, and I'm not done with it yet, but it's great. And I find myself as mindful as I can be. I have a health and wellness coach. I practice meditation. But I'm a busy working mom, right? So like I find myself striving for that perfection because I am that type A personality. And sometimes we just have to be present. And I spoke about this recently with a girlfriend of mine. And then the conversation came up again with a client. And it's kind of like moms have 3 shifts. We have like the morning shift of like getting the kids out the door, getting us dressed, getting everyone like fed and, off to where they have to go. And like work, second shift is like real job, whether you're an entrepreneur or you work for somebody else and you have that 9 to 5 or whatever. And then the third shift, which is the hardest shift in my opinion, is like the witching hour. And it depends like where you are in your family with kids and not kids. But after work to then have to come home and get the mail and unpack the Amazon packages and make the dinner and unpack the backpacks and make sure we check the homework and pack lunches for the next day and feed the dogs. And, God forbid there's a PTA meeting or something thrown in there or, gymnastics, soccer, whatever it is. And the minute you walk in, it's like, okay, third shift, right? Like I'm going in high gear. And all of my children want is for me to sit down and like play Magnet Tiles with them for 5 minutes. And I fought this for so long because I'm like, no, I got to do X, Y, and Z. I got to cross things off my list. I got to do it. We got to keep on. If I lose momentum, like we're going to fall off. The train's going to fall off the tracks. We're not going to have dinner. We're not going to be able to brush our teeth and get to bed on time. And part of this book is just like, no, we can take some time, right? Take some time, take some breaths and be like, hey kids, how is your day? Here is your one-on-one. I'm so present with my clients, learning about what they want, what they need. And I really needed to shift that to my own life, for my own kids, for my husband. And so now I try, and I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to be more present and trying to come home, drop my stuff. And before I do the 20 things I have to do, I just sit with my kids, try to ask them about their day, try to talk to them, play with them for 5 minutes. And that's really all they want is 5 minutes. But it's those minor little shifts that make a big difference for the night, for the week, for our family.
I'm hearing that mindfulness and intentionality is not just an arrival, a destination, but it's a lifestyle. And even someone like you who work with clients be more mindful about their money, mindful about their vision, mindful about their purpose, are still like practicing it versus just like, okay, we've gotten there and we got the certificates, we're feeling good. And it was just like pat on the back and you're just like, oh, what's next, right? Type A. But it's a lifestyle and it's an integration in what you're practicing. That's what I'm taking away. That's powerful.
Yeah. And it's not easy. And I think that, some people look and say like, oh, she has it all together. And I'm like, no, I don't have it all together, but it's a choice to proactively try. And I think part of the book, present over perfection present over perfection, I think it's called, or present, not perfect, is just simply that, right? Like we just have to show up. And that's enough sometimes. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be dressed to the nines. We don't have to have hair and makeup. And we don't have to, have all the things. Sometimes we just have to be present. And that's important. And I think that's important for ourselves to be present, for our careers, for our children, for our spouses. And just I think about a lot of times presents, right? Christmas. We just got over Christmas. How, we're just buying stuff. Right? Like here, I feel obligated because it's Christmas. I have to buy you this toy. Here's this plastic piece of crap that you're going to throw in the garbage because it is December and that's what society tells me I have to do. And I don't like that, right? One, I don't like plastic. Two, I hate my kids' toys everywhere. They play with them for 5 minutes and they get tossed. And so we did some shifting, right? So we did some, instead of stuff. We did experiences. So let's gift a membership to the aquarium. Let's gift a membership to this. Let's buy a gift certificate for your favorite coffee shop. And so I wanted that to blend in to the time is more valuable and spending that time, because I can buy you a gift and I can send it to you and it's like, oh great, thanks, Melissa loves me, right? Or I can sit and have a cup of tea or coffee with you and really look into your eyes and say like, what's going on? How's it been? Tell me what's going on. And that is more powerful than any gift that I can give you, is like our time.
I'm hearing quality over quantity. I'm hearing intentionality versus passivity. I'm hearing meaningful things versus meaningless things. And it sounds, just from the outside in, and I know you mentioned you're not a perfect person and no one is perfect, but it sounds like you're practicing living on purpose versus practicing living just going with the flow. And I'm curious, like, how does, and this is me being selfish, how does consistency and discipline play a role in what you do as a mother, as a spouse, as a leader, as a founder? Like, how does that play a role?
I think you need an accountability partner. And I think that is really clutch, because it's easy to have, we all want to be more present, right? Like we all want to be more intentional. We all want to work out more. We want to have more movement. We want to save more money. I always think about like the personal trainer. If people want to like lose weight, right? It's like very simple. You got to move more, eat less, right? Like that's like, there's all kinds of like diets and fads and gimmicks, like, but that's like the core, right? Like more movement, less consumption. But we try to change it. And it's so simple. But if you have that accountability partner that's looking at what you're eating, right? That nutritionalist, you have that gym buddy that you're like, okay, you better be there. It's 5:30 in the morning. You better be there because you're meeting me there. Or if it's that trainer to push you to do those extra reps, that leads you to show up and show up as your best self. And I think having an accountability partner, and I like to be that for my clients, like we're going to save like a little bit more money. Like, all right, show me. Like, let's see. Let's get on a plan, and like I'm going to check in with you later. We're going to cancel some subscriptions. All right, let's see. Did our expenses go down? Like, were we able to move some of that money somewhere else? And that creates more action. And then we see that compound interest, right? We start to get excited. We see that bank balance grow, our 401k, like, oh, wow. I just gave myself a little bit of a raise and the market went up, and then I had my company match, and this looks good. I'm going to keep on doing this, because you see the effects of compound interest and time. And so that, I think, is really powerful. And then you believe. But it's hard. Change is hard at first.
Change is hard at first. So what I'm hearing is you take the actions and then you believe when you start seeing, versus believing first and then taking those steps. That's fascinating. So like, if people, our listeners, want to get in contact with you, how would they get in contact with you, Melissa?
Yeah, you can go to my website. It's mindfulfinancialpartners.com. I offer complimentary first get to know you calls if you guys have questions about your finances or just in general mindfulness. Happy to just chat, and if I can't help you, I'm happy to connect to somebody that can help you. I have a lot of professionals in my network, and I love to meet great people.
Awesome. Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your passion with us today. Your holistic approach to financial clarity, grounded in empathy and empowerment, is truly inspiring. I know our listeners will walk away feeling encouraged to take control of their finances and find purpose in their decision. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Clarity Podcast, Melissa.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
Awesome.